Today we're going to be talking about probably the most important topic in Fortnite, especially for getting to the next level or really just getting better at the game in general. No matter how fast you can build, no matter how fast you can edit, you can do 90s in creative for 24 hours in a day, but if you can't hit a shotgun shot, you're really not going to be dominating in the game. All these top level players can just smack off 200s to 100 damage shotgun shots and just absolutely destroy people. So in this video, I know there have been multiple videos of people talking about aim, but I'm going to try to give you guys some unique tips as well, some stuff you can really be practicing on in the regular game, and you don't have to hop just into creative all day and crank out aim practice. So without further ado, everybody, let's hop right into it. So first of all, I want to talk through settings. And now lower settings and lower sensitivity are of course going to make your aim better. A lot of people talk through how, when you have a lower sensitivity, you can control your sensitivity better and you might be able to hit your shots better. But all in all, I think it comes down to just having a sensitivity you can control. I'll show you guys my sensitivity, all of this good stuff, but basically it just comes down to actually being able to stick with the sensitivity, and that way for a couple of weeks you practice on that sens, and after a while, you're going to get better with your shotgun shots. Just don't change it up a bunch. If you go up to a 7.7 sensitivity on controller or whatever your mouse sensitivity might be as well, stick with that for a while. Don't change it too much. Stick with something that might be similar to your build sensitivity or something of that nature as well, and just stick with it. That's my ultimate goal. People say there's the perfect settings. Yes, there are some really good settings out there that might give you a better advantage, but ultimately, it's about sticking to a sensitivity, and that's going to get you your kills. There are a couple settings changes that I think will really help you guys out though. So dead zones, first off, we can now edit those. We've been able to for a while, but I haven't talked about it in a video like this. Basically, your dead zones are how sensitive your sticks are to how they move. I made a whole video on that, and I'll try to link it down below in the description. But basically, if you make your dead zones a little decreased, it's going to make it to where whenever you're touching your sticks, you have more control. It kind of counters having to buy like these thumbsticks that, are like control freaks or anything like that. So if you can't afford anything like that, I highly recommend you move your dead zones down a little bit. It's going to give you more control in your sticks. You're not going to have to move them as far to move your character or really just move around in your view in the game. So I recommend that. But second of all, I highly recommend unbinding sprint from your controller and moving sprint to sprint by default. Now, to explain this, basically in the game, there's very few times where you're walking. In my experience, especially once you start getting to the higher level of the game, you don't really have to walk in the game at all. You're always sprinting. And if you still have sprint bound to down on the left stick, well, you're having to push that all game, and that's wasting a button that you could potentially be using to do something else. Now, I have 4 paddles on the back of my Elite controller, so I don't have to bind anything to that. But if you guys don't have an Elite or something like that, you can bind jump to down on the left stick, and that is going to save you guys having to push down sprint all the time. So if you unbind sprint and you make it sprint by default, that's going to give you another option with your controller, and it's going to make hitting jump shots with your shotguns a lot easier. So next up, we have a tip that I actually think is very helpful, but I could also see myself getting roasted for this one because it's pretty basic. But when you think about it, hitting the blue circles whenever you're harvesting wood or any resource in the game is something that actually gives you hipfire practice with your weapon. So if you think about it with your shotgun, you're shooting from the middle of your screen, and that's where you're shooting your shotgun. However, when you're hitting these blue circles, you're hitting them with your pickaxe, which is very similar to a hipfire shot from a shotgun. So practicing hitting those blue circles, jumping around, crouching while you hit those, just basically making it as hard as you can and trying to be as accurate to just keep hitting these blue circles is going to give you good practice. While Fortnite has decided to make us harvest resources for millions of trees in the game, we might as well use that as practice to get better. So I think that using the blue circles is a really good and underrated way to start getting used to your new sensitivity if you changed it, or just get used to your sensitivity in general of jumping around, crouching, hitting those blue circles. You're eventually going to start getting and adapting to your sensitivity, which is going to make your hipfire shots with your shotgun a lot better. And hipfire and flicks are something that are so important when it comes to shotgun aim. So if you can practice that while farming, since this game has turned into like 90% farming in regular playlists, take advantage of it, get better with your shotgun shots, and at the end of the day, you're going to be a better player. Now, after practicing for a while and adapting to whatever sensitivity you're on, and you're doing the blue circle trick as well, to where you're just really focusing on hitting those while you harvest, and you're jumping around and all of that, I highly recommend that when you're aiming with your shotgun, we start focusing on where you're looking. So I talked about this a little bit in the last video, but I think it's really important to stress in this one as well. Where you are looking is such a basic thing for when you're going for shotgun shots, but when you think about it, where are you actually looking? So are you looking at the head of your enemy? Are you looking at the chest? Or are you looking at your shotgun? What are you looking at? Are you looking at your reticle on the screen? Because what's worked best for me is looking at the head of the opponent I am facing. That has worked the best for me, and that helps me track people through walls. Like, I know all of you guys have run into that scenario where you're in your box, somebody's trying to take your wall, they get your wall, they edit it, and then they shoot you. Well, if you can track them through that and you're just staring at their head the entire time, there's a good chance you're going to line up your shotgun shot right for their head, and whenever they edit that, you're just going to blast them for a 200 or a 100 plus damage shotgun shot and make them really regret that edit. So what it really comes down to is where you're looking at in your shotgun shots. What really helps me is looking at my opponent's head, but that could be different from you guys. You might be more accurate when you're looking at the actual shotgun reticle. I was thinking about this the other day. Just because it works really well for me doesn't mean it will for you guys. However, I've gotten down my shotgun sensitivity so well that I know just if I look over here, I have to bring over and pull my sticks this fast, and I can get the shotgun shot many times. So I highly recommend you guys just start practicing one method, really start thinking about where you're looking in these fights, and it's going to start helping, and you're going to start getting a rhythm down and maybe a little bit of muscle memory going into these fights. Next up, it's time to talk through right shoulder peeks. And if you don't know what right shoulder peeks are, they've been around since the game came out, and it's probably the most OP shotgun strategy in the game. I highly recommend doing right shoulder peeks anytime maybe your aim's a little bit off, or you get in a lot of trouble in a fight. If you're low health, right shoulder peeks can be perfect for rattling off shots without a high risk of taking damage back. So if you don't know what it is, basically it's where you hide behind an object and you just peek out the right side to get your shotgun shot off around the right. Basically, all this means is you can see around the corner without actually exposing yourself. Then if you see an enemy coming, they won't see you. They won't be able to see you. A lot of people assume people are doing right shoulder peeks, so you have to be aware of that. But you can flick off a shot around the corner really quickly without exposing yourself for too long, get off a devastating shot on your enemy, and then you can go right back and then reset the fight. So now they'll know where you are, but hopefully you either killed them or you dealt a really big strike, and then you can start playing offensive towards them and just going all out on the attack. So the right shoulder peek, I highly recommend anytime you're not hitting your shots, you don't feel comfortable in a situation, you're still adapting to your sensitivity, the right shoulder peek is the way to go. It's so overpowered, and any time that I really get in trouble in the game, I always try to fall back to the right shoulder peek. It's the old reliable, and even at the top level of the game, if you can get a good right shoulder peek on one of a really good players, it's going to set up a really good situation for you. Finally, it comes down to something that I see in every single aim video, but it's just that important that I have to mention it. So repetition and practice, guys, is the biggest thing for getting better. You're not going to get better by just listening to me or listening to some other YouTuber talk about aim the entire time. It comes down to you actually practicing it in the game. However, there are ways that you don't have to be playing 8 hours a day to get really good aim. You can take advantage of your time when you're on the game. You can hop into aim courses in creative. That is something that has really helped me. There's this guy named Geerzy who made a great aim course, and so I'm going to link it down below. I'll give you guys the code, and also I'll link to his channel because he made a really good aim course. And also, just doing creative free-for-alls. I've talked about those a lot on this channel. Creative free-for-alls are really great, so joining our Discord is a great way to get in on those. And yeah, so just those two things have helped me the most. Also, solo squads are great for putting yourself in bad situations and just forcing yourself to learn how to hit these shotgun shots. If you don't hit your shotgun shots in solo squads, you're going to die. That's just how it works because you're outnumbered and a lot of times in bad situations. So you really have to focus up and hit your shots, which really helps me for getting warmed up and just getting better shots in general. So I just want to be clear that I don't think anybody is going to become a shotgun god within an hour. It's going to take a lot of practice, guys, but hopefully you guys are going to keep getting better and better. Let me know which tip you like the best from this, or which one you didn't like the best. I want to hear feedback, both good and bad. Leave a like or a dislike if this wasn't that helpful. This type of stuff helps me know what I can and can't do in the next videos and what worked. What helps you guys the best? What type of feedback? Does it help actually seeing the gameplay or hearing me talk through it? Like, give me the old good old deets. But thank you guys so much for watching. I do have a playlist of Fortnite guides if you enjoyed this one. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It's all Season 8 guides, just me talking through how to get better in the game, and hopefully that will really help you guys out if you still have more questions and things of that nature. It's here on YouTube. I also started a second channel, guys, that I'm going to start posting content on. I've only released one video, and that was like 2 weeks ago, but more videos are coming, so I'm excited. For here on YouTube, we're almost at 200K subscribers, so thank you guys so much. I'll see you all in the next video.
Started as a zero, I was chasing dreams, trying to turn into a hero.